So Sean, here we are in really wintry, cold, dark London. Certainly feels like the end of the year, but it's been an exciting year in ad tech nonetheless, as ever. How would you tie it up? How do you see 2023?
Yeah, I would agree. It's been an exciting year. One of the major trends we're continuing to hear about is certainly this concept of consolidation in the market. There's a lot of discussion around consolidation among media companies, for example, but there's also a lot of activity around consolidation in the ad tech space as well, particularly coming from the buy side, where buyers are looking to go deeper with a much smaller set of partners. Not only the demand side technologies that they work with, but also their partners in terms of supply side technology. And there's a lot of reasons that they're doing that. Better financial transparency, bespoke product development to help solve some of the industry's challenges, emerging concerns and needs around sustainability, and the list goes on. But the reality is that this concept of consolidation, particularly being driven from the buy side, is one of the most important trends we've witnessed in the market. It's been a talking point for many years, but it has surely intensified over the last 12 to 18 months.
Okay, so you've snapshotted what the buy side is saying, what they've been doing. How about the supply side? What are you hearing from the sellers?
Well, on the streaming side, the supply side is much more concentrated in terms of technology, in that the media owners in streaming tend to work with a much smaller set of technology partners already, given the way that marketplace operates. And there are a relatively small number of technology companies that truly have the scale and the footprint in streaming. That's very different than other areas of digital media. But with that being said, even in those other areas, like for example in the display market or the web market, we are starting to hear leaders say, hey, I used to work with 15 exchanges, I'm down to 10, and I'm headed down into single digits. And again, there are a lot of reasons for that. I think folks are paying much more attention to the long-term financial viability of companies in the space, and that's really important. And again, sustainability is an important emerging trend. The reality is that there are companies who are essentially scoring media owners around their carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Buyers are paying attention or starting to pay attention to those scores. And so there's a cost essentially to adding a bunch of partners, and media owners need to pay attention to that, and they need to make sure that each partner is delivering enough value to warrant that spot. And so we're even starting to see that consolidation happen elsewhere in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about SSP consolidation, and I think for some there's a feeling that SSPs are being cut out of the chain. Where do SSPs sit in the connected TV ecosystem, do you think, these days?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of news around this in the market. I think the important thing to point out is we tend as an industry to use blanket terms to describe all companies in a given space as the same, and the reality is that's not actually the case. And so, for example, there have been a number of the larger DSPs who have announced alternative paths into inventory. And I think one of the things the market missed around that is where those emerging solutions are going to integrate. First and foremost, you need to integrate them in a place that has the technical capability to support those new integrations. And secondly, the DSPs have been clear that their ambition is to deliver more value back to their advertisers, and they've been very transparent about that, rightfully so. From our standpoint, it's also important for media owners to pay attention to where this goes for them in the long run. And so in addition to having the technical capability, it's important to integrate solutions where your interests are top of mind, number one, and where you can also keep pace with the development and innovation of these solutions as things evolve. So we announced support for OpenPath by The Trade Desk and Backstage by Yahoo through SpringServe, our ad serving platform, providing media owners with that option and a path to accomplishing what I'm describing here.
Mm-hmm. And once upon a time, SSPs were seen as synonymous with just exchanges. Is it so simple anymore?
No, I do think it's more nuanced now. Certainly in our case, we've really focused on advancing and broadening the capabilities that we provide to media owners to help them sort of meet the need of the modern media landscape. And so while the exchange, the set of capabilities we would describe as exchange capabilities remain a very important part of the business and will long into the foreseeable future, the reality is that our capabilities are broader than that, and we are providing new and innovative solutions to market. And so, as I just mentioned, when you read stories like, hey, SSPs are being cut out of the equation in all of these cases, that's just factually incorrect, and it's not actually the case. And so I do think we need to start making those distinctions and being a little bit more careful about the definitions that we apply. Does it perhaps thin the field a little bit in terms of who has been investing in those capabilities and who hasn't? That may be the case, but it's not as cut and dry as some in the market have made it out to be.
And what does that expansion of, I guess, point solution exchange mean for the way you work with buyers and sellers?
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about the consolidation on both sides of the fence. Particularly from the buy side, I think they're looking for companies that have the breadth of capabilities and the depth of integrations with the vast majority of the media owners they work with to be able to accomplish everything that comes with those transactions and different shapes and forms of the way they interact with media owners. And at the same time, I think publishers in the supply side are looking for partners who can support them based on where the industry is headed, not necessarily for a specific set of functionalities. So we've spent a lot of time investing to broaden our capabilities and meet the needs of both sides in terms of what they're looking for.
And one of the capabilities you launched in 23 was Clearline, the self-service buying tool. Give us an update. How has it gone since launch?
Yeah, it's going really well. I mean, the premise behind Clearline was really driven from the buy side, saying, hey, we have money moving into the streaming ecosystem, but it's trapped in a way in that we need, for some of these budgets, more economical path to get the money from point A to point B. Essentially, how can we reduce the transactional cost that comes with the existing programmatic workflow and find a way to deliver those budgets more effectively? And now, Clearline is not everything to everybody. It's very focused in the premium video landscape, where there are typically direct deals between buyers and sellers. And the financial or business terms around those deals are well articulated in advance. And we brought the product to market in order to enable that to happen in those cases. And we've seen a lot of interest and adoption.
One thing we hear in the evolution of streaming TV is that actually it's going to look, and increasingly does look, a lot more like TV. In terms of advertising, does that mean the formats will also continue to look like TV? Will they continue to be 15, 30-second spots?
Well, I certainly think the nature of the private interaction between buyers and sellers, the deal-driven workflow, that's very much how we see the streaming marketplace transacting, which is dramatically different than in other areas of digital media for sure. But it's also evolving past the typical 15s and 30s or the ad formats you would typically be accustomed to in the TV space, and moving into new, interesting and emerging areas, like, for example, the home screen experience. And so we did some research earlier this year, and we asked consumers, well, where do you go in terms of content recommendation, or where do you go to figure out what to watch next? And unsurprisingly, the top answer was friends and family, but a close second was the home screen of my smart TV or from certain streaming apps. In terms of what I see there really influences the content that I watch next. And so we've gotten involved in bringing enterprise-grade technology to a lot of the constituents who have that home screen experience, like the smart TV OEMs. So companies like Vizio. We've also announced a partnership with Rakuten in terms of bringing that enterprise-grade technology to allow those entities to manage that experience in a really effective way. And the research goes to show just how valuable that real estate is. And it's already a really important part of the advertising business for constituents like the smart TV OEMs. And so that's an example of a newer format where it's a little bit different from traditional TV, but it holds a very important place in the streaming landscape.
And when you think about an alternative format like the home screen, what's the level of buyer maturity there around what that creative should look like? Is there an agreed ad format there? Is it still video?
It is. There needs to be a lot of work still, which we're really trying to help move forward around standardization. And it's also, given the use case we just discussed, media and entertainment, for example, is by far the largest vertical in those environments. But we do think that the applications will broaden as we move forward, and there could be a lot of exciting developments around what advertiser categories can be effectively brought to something like the home screen.
As we think about that alternative format of the home screen, what's the level of buyer understanding for what that creative should look like? Is it video? Is it a banner?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of work around standardization that needs to come around what's taking place on the home screen, and it's also heavily leveraged by media and entertainment advertisers based on what we just discussed. But I do think there's definitely application for different advertiser categories to come into that space as we move forward, which could be really exciting.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, and I hope 2024 is as exciting as 2023 was.
Thanks. It's great to be here.